Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Are you badass? You know you want to be. If not, you're doing the next best thing. Listening to Kevin and Chuck, the badass hosts of the Survival and Basic Badass podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass podcast with Kevin and Chuck. Today we're going to talk about espionage. We had some other episodes: sabotage, clandestine operations, personal privacy. They all kind of touch on espionage and how to kind of protect yourself from the bad that's out there in the world. But, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier this week, and he's, one of these big government clearance guys and has the big background a little more in, counterintelligence, that kind of stuff. So we were talking, and I was showing him the podcast and the downloads, and he's like, gee, they seem to download your podcast in Beijing, China quite a bit. They must, that's a little strange that they find such an interest, not too many Americans hanging out there. And we don't have that broad of an audience. He thought that was a little odd.
A little odd, more than
and they download
Moscow?
A lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh yeah, now that you say it. And he was like, are you sure you guys aren't talking about classified information on the podcast? Mm-hmm. And
well, that's kind of right there. It's kind of counterintelligence in the sense that we're watching who's watching.
Oh, see, we're looking out, and that's it. But believe it or not, espionage goes way back. The Hebrews, Moses, all through the scriptures, they would talk about spies, and you got to remember they had like really small armies, and it was tough for the Hebrews to kind of defend themselves and be on top of it. And they would send somebody in to look at the weak spots in the walls. They would kind of take notes of troop movements and do that. I mean, so all this stuff has been going on throughout history.
Right. Thousands and thousands of years.
It's not, a new thing. Mm-hmm. You'd think that we came up with it here.
Right.
But no, other people have been doing it.
Sun Tzu spent a lot of his, Sun Tzu in The Art of War spent a lot of time talking about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, tell me about Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, well, you know who he is. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. There's been a lot of adaptations of his books. But all through his book, it's there's a lot of things pointing to knowing your enemy as well as you know yourself.
Oh.
And so he's always if you haven't read his book or a version of his book, I recommend it because it's definitely got a lot of valid points.
The Syrians were really one of the first to really get in on that with the Fertile Crescent, Iraq, Iran, mm-hmm. all kind of in there. They would talk about the spies and informants and report back. And believe it or not, the clergy were a big part of spying. It's funny, they as the church broke into different sects, and they mm-hmm. were able to, steer some clergy away and say, look, if you want to kind of make your path grow, the government here, we can help you mm-hmm. if you kind of get some intel and bring it back to us.
Right.
And stuff like that. I know you had mentioned you found some kind of scripture, or was it not that good?
Well, it was I looked through a few CIA unclassified, information about about counterintelligence, and one of the guys, James M. Olson, he had a paper about the 10 Commandments of counterintelligence.
Okay. And
we won't get into that yet. We can get into that later. But he started out with Isaiah 48:18, which says, "O that thou hadst hearkened to my commandments, then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea." And I think that's a kind of harkens to the idea of paying attention, to what you're supposed to be doing before it's an emergency.
Like prepping.
Obviously, that's a secular interpretation of that.
All right.
But that's it kind of leads in with the idea that there's people that are out to get you, and you need to watch out for that ahead of time.
All right, sounds right. Now, I wanted to do some research.
Okay.
I put espionage in the Google and checked it out. And there's
the Google on the interweb?
The interweb.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I know, because you were waiting for me to say googly. I googly it, but I was trying to mix it up.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So I type in espionage, and apparently I was able to get some kind of correct spelling. And there's a security software called Espionage that you can lock all the folders on your computer. So I'm like, all right, let me look at this. I'm just curious, whatever. What it does is, depending on the password that you type in to open up these folders, it opens different folders.
Right.
So when the bad guy puts the gun to your head and is like, oh, open your folder so I can see your secret documents, then it's all right there. I can type in the password to show him. But the problem is, the government or anybody who's going to force you to open folders, I can't help but think they might see that, oh, isn't that an espionage?
Oh, but
that's the one with multiple passwords.
It just doesn't allow you to open it. It doesn't. Oh, I see what you're saying. Multiple passwords.
Right. As soon as they see, oh, that's from that company.
You have to memorize passwords. Everyone knows that. You can't write them down places.
Right. But I don't know. I was like, wait a minute. You're not that clever if everybody knows that the wrong password opens the wrong folders. So if they get a bunch of folders on Mickey Mouse...
I don't know. I feel like if I was trying to get somebody to open their computer, I wouldn't know about this.
No?
Not until now. Now I do. Now you blew up the spot.
I did. All right. So you said, it goes back to the foundings of our country. Even
this country especially has a big history. And, we think about the CIA and the Secret Service and different... groups, but they weren't around, for most of our history.
Right.
The CIA wasn't invented until right around World War II, and that wasn't even a big situation then.
Right.
But Washington was obviously he's known. They had that show Spies with the the big Washington Spies and that sort of stuff. But the person that they consider the founding father of counterintelligence is John Jay.
Okay.
He was, one of Washington's, cabinet members, and they even found a British conspiracy to kill George Washington by one of his bodyguards, and it was Thomas Hickey, and they ended up executing him because he was they wanted him to capture or assassinate Washington.
Wow.
And he had he had a group of at least 10 agents. They're not 100% sure on it. John Jay did.
Okay.
One of the people that stuck out was Enoch Crosby. He's got one of those old 1700s names, Enoch, and he was like the original James Bond, at least the American version. I'm sure the British have been doing that a lot longer than we have. They're actually they're known for their counterintelligence skills.
They are.
But he would join up with loyalist groups, and he would report back what they're doing, and then right before or after they're captured, he escapes so that he wasn't known as a spy that turned him in.
They didn't rat him.
Yeah. One of the times they were talking about how he right before he told the Americans to hide in a barn, and they'd be coming past there. And right before he dove into like a bale of hay, and they captured everybody, but then they started going through with bayonets, stabbing hay. Oh. So they ended up catching him. And when they brought him back and locked him up, the lady that lived in the house recognized him from meetings that he had with John Jay, and she drugged the guards so that he could escape. And then word spread of his escape, and all the loyalists still felt like he was on their side and was just like really good. And it just kind of cemented his his. And it's interesting though, because he was right around here. Most of his work was Marlborough, and Fishkill. These are towns that are right around our neighborhood. So I thought he was an interesting character.
No, not bad.
Another one I was going to talk about was Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
And he had a real thing with puzzles, different types of things like that. And he was Secretary of State for Washington. He came up with the wheel cipher. And some people know about this, but it's not a huge issue. But it was used quite a bit, and it was basically a rod with 26 wheels on it, and on the edge.
Did I see this in the Da Vinci Code?
Was it in? I don't know. I read the Da Vinci Code, but I don't remember it.
All right, go on.
But he had like a series of numbers and letters on each row, and you would line those up and write out your message. And then send that gibberish over to the next person, and they would use the wheel cipher. They would line up the gibberish and then turn it around until it read out a message.
Now, would you... I was told that you were willing to start setting up some kind of cipher code for the Prepping Badass audience, for the hardcore loyal?
Yeah, well, I have some basic ideas, and maybe at the end of the show.
All right. Because I know you're going to read off some code for the hardcores.
Mm-hmm.
But, all right, I'll save that for later. So, after Washington...
after
Jefferson, I guess?
Yeah, well, it gets into Jefferson's presidency. He was, there's a lot of information. I don't want to get too much into it. I didn't read too much into it. But he had a lot of information about the Barbary Pirates.
Yeah.
The Marine hymn.
Yep.
They're right in there,
Nice.
So, his big thing was overthrowing the government that supported the Barbary Pirates. A lot like, we've dealt with governments, the Taliban wasn't necessarily an enemy of the United States before they were harboring terrorists. So it was kind of along those same lines. A lot of people don't think of George Washington, or as Thomas Jefferson, as, being a very proactive president, but he was the first president to fight fundamental Islam and Islamic extremism. And let's not forget that our country was kind of based on this, and it disappeared for a long time, but it's been around in the background all this time.
I know they debated long and hard about, they were worried about freedom of religion. I can talk freedom of religion, and they were like, with the Muslims, I'm not sure we want to do that. And they were very concerned. Mm-hmm. And they said, but if we're going to have principles, you got to have principles, Right. So it's definitely been an ongoing battle throughout America's history.
Right.
Where does this take us?
Well, that was our basic, the research I did on the Founding Fathers.
Right.
And, obviously, counterintelligence has gone, in a lot of directions since then.
Yes.
I flipped through some of the different information out there, kind of, thinking about codes and code breaking and, the Enigma machine. Right. And, it kind of led me to, they've got a real science now down with the counterintelligence.
Yeah.
The CIA we have now is nothing like what we had earlier in our early history.
Well, that's, World War II, I was just thinking, the Stasi were so far ahead. And it was really how brutal they were willing to be to get information. Mm-hmm. They say, in line with KGB, almost equal in ability.
Right.
but maybe even the Stasi had the edge. At the time, our CIA was nothing compared, as far as the ability to gather intelligence.
Right.
We did not, have the influence and that they built up. I mean, those people really were groundbreaking. But, I mean, all throughout history, you were just mentioning, Washington, Jefferson, the Romans were huge in spies and, throughout Shakespeare plays, you Brutus and the whole thing, right?
I've been listening to that podcast, The History of Rome.
Okay.
And it was really 90% of it seemed like 90% of
espionage and spying.
Yeah, spies and all that sort of stuff. And, let alone the fact that all the conspiracies happened to assassinate emperors, Most of them only lasted 3 or 4 months before they got taken out and somebody else took their spot. That's not a job I would want. That kind of life expectancy.
As I was doing the research, I mean, America has actually, I guess it's our freedom and freedom of speech and things like that. That just, I guess we have a different mindset of what, security and stuff like that. All these other governments, everything's so private.
Right.
You talk about, I was doing some research for this on, the spies studying the Nazi party in California and like that. And they said, we have no problem going out and like touring the Navy bases in, 1939. Mm-hmm. And, if somebody in the Nazi party, the American Nazi party was like, oh, I'd like to see the ships and take some pictures. It looks, we were like, oh, no problem. Come on in. Whatever. Some of the spies reporting back to Germany as far as, what kind of planes are they building, how many, what kind of ships, they were actually sending back newspaper clippings and being like,
because it's right there in the news.
This based in San Diego's, this factory's putting out this and that. And all this stuff was like right out there in the open. And you know what? It's part of who we are. I don't necessarily look at that as a flaw of America.
Right. Openness is one of the openness is one of the key values I think Americans believe in. You should know what your government's doing, but also that allows foreign governments to know what our government's doing.
It gives you a little, openness and whatever. And you hear like loose lips sink ships, and you don't want to you don't want to be the guy to give out, information, but man, America, we're pretty much an open book. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of cool things out there, and we're happy to. You know what? I kind of look at it as back in the day, people didn't really want. Not everybody. There was a small section that didn't want the patent office, and they're like, you know what? By patenting things, it stops growth and new development.
Really?
The idea is well, the way they looked at it was, if you come up with a new invention and you sell it and it's great, you're worried about somebody stealing your idea and whatever. But the idea is you should be moving forward, that by the time they copy it and they're able to get it into production, you've already made the better version of your product.
You're already ahead of that.
You should always be one step ahead, and other people are just chasing your coattails. Yeah. Now, I know some people are just going to have one idea for their lifetime,
right?
And then you're kind of stuck.
That one.
But that's the idea. Is moving forward.
A lot of the problems right now with copyrights and that sort of stuff is involved with China. China is they're writing Harry Potter books and everything. The whole 9 yards. But right now they're even at the level where they can't even reverse engineer information that we have, on the phones and the higher end technology. They can't even reverse engineer it because they're so far behind us. Really? And I think a lot of that has to do with our openness of ideas here in this country, in the sense that
they keep us moving forward. It's a big collaboration.
Faster than they can even catch up.
Yeah, no, that's something to be said for that. A lot of it, like a lot of the Chinese have actually, are known for hacking and getting into people's emails and things like that. You wouldn't expect that a government, is really behind these things. But what is it? The Chinese, people's army.
They've been in, quite a few, and it's way too many to go through on this podcast. but there's huge amounts of data on the internet. If you want to look into it, if you think that I'm making things sound worse than they are, then I recommend that you do some of your own research. But the U.S. House of Representatives Select Committee, were warning about this in the Cox report, COX report, Cox report.
So I would have spelled that different. So
all right, yeah.
All right.
Stolen classified info on thermonuclear warheads. So we're just going to talk about nuclear missiles here.
All right.
They stole information on the W-56 Minuteman II intercontinental ballistic missile, W-62 Minuteman No. 3, W-70 Lance short-range ballistic missiles, W-76 Trident C-4. That's a sub-launched ballistic missile. The Minuteman III, W-78 ICBM, the W-87 Peacekeeper, the W-88 Trident.
You're not trying to make my podcast boring, are you?
Well, I'm just saying these are all information that's been stolen from the United States by the Chinese.
And the list goes on.
And it goes on and on. Now, in 2010, Google, January 2010, Google reported, quote, a highly sophisticated and targeted attack on our corporate infrastructure originating from China that resulted in the theft of intellectual property from Google that was targeted at Gmail accounts of Chinese human rights activists. Oh. So that's them targeting Google with malware so that they can prosecute their own people for speaking out. Yes. So I mean, in one sense, I should applaud them for sabotaging their own country, but at the same time, if anybody needs human rights activists, it's the Chinese.
Yes.
There are people in China, and I don't feel like the Chinese are bad people. They just have a shitty government.
You're willing to say that. They're listening. They're downloading this
I have
podcast.
Chinese friends who I will not name because God forbid they end up in a cell somewhere naked with somebody pissing on them.
Yeah, I wouldn't name any Chinese friends.
But I have friends that are Chinese that are decent people. But their government is shady.
Yes.
You were talking about, all right, here's one, 2013, the New York Times was hacked because they were critical of the Chinese president. If you are a U.S.-based news organization and you're critical of the Chinese government, prepare to have your shit hacked. So we're going to have to watch out.
Unless nobody listens.
Yeah, unless nobody listens, but we're going to have to watch out now. My email is probably looked at. They're gonna know all the bizarre stuff I look up on the internet.
Yeah.
Bigfoot might be real. I'm not saying anything, but maybe the Chinese are interested in that.
But if they're looking, they might see that you're on to something,
Uh-huh. All right, so you were talking about hydraulic fracking.
Yes.
That was recently. We were talking about that.
U.S. Steel.
U.S. Steel. We're designing pipes designed for fracking without seams.
Right. Seamless piping so they could bang it into the ground.
Right.
And it would, go through without problems.
And then all of a sudden, Chinese knockoffs start showing up with the exact same equipment.
Cheaper.
Uh-huh.
Easy produced. Nice.
Uh-huh. And, it was obvious that the Chinese were stealing their info. They were stealing, info on pricing.
Now, how do you go about something like that? Like, you always... people are like, oh, well, I don't go on, porn websites, so I'm not going to get malware. I don't need to worry about it.
Right.
Right? Isn't that what happens? Or
you were talking about, when we were talking before the show, you were talking about...
Cybersecurity,
yep. Board members getting emails from the CEO that had a link.
Well, that's how it gets a little more advanced.
And that seems pretty, if you would think that if you're a board member and the CEO sends you an email... that obviously that's safe, but maybe it's also the Chinese that,
the Chinese, those bastards.
Just have the same name,
I get an email from Kevin. I'm like, He probably wants to talk about the podcast.
Click on this link about prepping.
Chuck, look at this link about prepping. You know, I found this article about silencers, and
let's just make a mutual agreement that if you get an email from me or I get an email from you with a link, we call each other first and just confirm.
The reality is I've never gotten an email from you.
That's why it should be suspicious, but don't give it away.
Oh, we just tipped our hand, huh? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, luckily we have a secret code worked in there, so I'll be on the lookout.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so U.S. Steel. So the Chinese would actually send out, an email from the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
They'd open it up, and there'd be a link to websites with malware, things that, expose them. And then all of a sudden, what they have, it was 700,000 pages of documents hacked?
A crazy amount. They had
maybe that was Westinghouse.
1.4 gigabytes of data. From Westinghouse.
Oh, it was Westinghouse. All right. But China's all over the place,
Yeah, and then there's the solar power issue. They're, and it's not, I'm not trying to say that these are the things that they're stealing. These are the information they're stealing. I'm saying that these are examples.
Right.
E.g., these are some examples of...
Ergo.
Yeah, of what they're stealing from us.
Right.
And it's not limited to, like I said, Harry Potter books. It's not limited to high tech. It's just stealing information that's property
of somebody
and exploiting it and using, basically stealing money.
But we can get some really cheap shit at Walmart, right?
Yeah, that's where I get my Rubbermaid products, which are all made in China now.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, if you want cheap crap from China.
And people talk about, China and communism works and shit like that.
It works off the back of.
It works if you have 2 billion slaves. It doesn't work, for those 2 billion slaves.
If you have 2 billion slaves and somebody else coming up with all the information and the new creative ideas that you get for free.
Right.
Then it works.
If you're willing to steal and enslave the people that you're supposed to represent as a government, then it works. One thing that I wanted to get on to that's off topic.
All right.
We can talk about a lot of different things about the Chinese, but one thing that I learned that seems very interesting is that it's not information that's not widely known that the Chinese censor their media.
What?
One of the things that they censor that I think is amazing is time travel information. You're not allowed to watch movies that involve time travel. You're not allowed to read books about time travel. Why this is, I can come up with ideas why, but they're all crazy.
They are crazy.
Just like Hillary Clinton collecting the DNA of all foreign diplomats. I know, I have some ideas of why she might do it, but they're all crazy.
And that's it.
Think about a world where you cannot watch Back to the Future.
Oh, that's a sad world.
Think about a world where you're missing out on...
You know what I saw? The
Chuck
Astronaut's Wife? That movie's messed up.
Yeah? I've never seen it.
It's really deep on that whole thing,
mm-hmm.
but then there's some bad cheating things, and I always get scarred every time I see anything with anybody cheating. I run in my room and cry, and I have some bad, past, and
bad
it's bad, but... that movie, it was deep. It was all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm
there's tons of amazing time travel movies that they're missing out on. That just culturally, that's why the United States is ahead of China. Is things like that. Time travel.
I thought it was because we're full of badasses.
No, if you don't know about Chuck Berry and rock and roll music, and it's being censored by China, then you're gonna live a life that's unfulfilled.
I think that's right. I think that that's a sad day.
It's a sad day. Now, I wanted to get back on topic a little bit.
Thank you. All right.
Time travel, it's a big deal with me. It's personally offensive
that
they censor that.
I have some books I'm going to bring over for you.
Yeah, we can do some time travel info, but, it's not pertinent to our podcast, and... if you're going to travel back in time...
People might find it fascinating.
Well, what I was thinking is...
not drink the beers before the podcast?
There's a lot of time travel talk about, if you could go back into the past and kill Hitler. I don't know if that's the best bet. But if you could go back in time and rape Hitler, it would ruin his self-esteem forever, and he would have never risen to power. I'm just saying, if you have a time machine...
Put that out there.
Let's go. All right, so I was looking at some of the CIA unclassified documents.
Yeah.
And there's a lot out there. If you want to look through it, there's some interesting stuff. But I had a 10 Commandments of Counterintelligence. So if we got time, you want to go through those?
Yeah, I think we do. We do have time, and let's get to it.
All right. Number 1, be offensive.
Oh.
They're talking about, like, double agents and, sitting and waiting for things to happen.
Well, James Bond was a little brash.
Hey, listen, I liked the James Bond movie.
All right, go on.
All right.
It was the girls.
Honor your professionals. Obviously, you don't have all skills, all the skills that are needed for your counterintelligence, and it's okay to find people that are the professional in that field.
I think is great advice. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people go in cocky, and you know what? I always tell my kids, you can't learn anything if you already know it all.
Right.
And
right.
That's the bottom line. I think we kind of brushed over the first one with my rude comments, but be offensive. What do they mean?
Basically the idea that, if you sit and wait for things to happen, that's not counterintelligence. If you wait to find out who stole your information until after it's stolen, you're not going to win the counterintelligence battle.
So we're on the offensive side, not defensive.
And they specifically talked about double agents, getting people from other governments to inform for you.
All right.
Number 2 is honor your professionals. Number 3, own the streets.
Okay, so that means command the information out there. Huh?
You don't show up to a meeting if you don't have a backup plan and somebody watching your back. And I think what I got from this article was that had gone on for a long time with U.S. intelligence in foreign countries. They were they were just showing up. Meanwhile, they're in a meeting being spied on when they should be spying on the spies. And I think that a lot of that has been corrected because they see that behavior was negative. All right, know your history. That's number 4. So know the history of your interactions with foreign governments.
Yeah.
Know who you're dealing with, and where the information that who you're dealing with, where they got their information.
I feel like we may have overlooked that when we made these negotiations with Iran most recently.
Well, I'm not... Listen, that's a whole podcast in itself, and you're going to make me mad, and I'm going to end up breaking the coffee table that we're sitting at.
All right, carry on.
All right. 5, do not ignore analysis. Now, that's something that I don't want to get into another topic.
Another touchy,
but the state... I know some people from the State Department that said that there were no... They had told the government that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
And
the State Department was ignored. I'm not saying whether the war was just or not, but I am saying that the State Department recommended that against it because there was no. All right. Do not be parochial. That's number 6. What that means would be like, share your information. Share your information and get information from your friends and neighbors.
All right.
I had a neighbor came over to me one day and told me that a person had gone into I pulled up in my driveway, gone in my backyard while I was gone, was there for 10, 15 minutes, and then went back out and got in their car and left. And, that's information that I would not have had if I didn't share my assets. Yep. Yeah. Number 7, train your people. I think that's a given. What that means. Be aware of how to gather information, how to stay safe when you're doing it. Do not stay too long. That's number 9. So that I think that gets into the fact that sometimes it's time to get the fuck out.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You got the what's who sang that song? I remember it as a child. You got to know when, hold 'em.
Kenny Loggins?
Yeah, the gambler.
Kenny Rogers?
Kenny Rogers, I think it was. Sometimes it's just time to leave.
Kenny something, know when to fold 'em, walk away, run.
Yeah, number 10. Never give up. And I think that's just a reference to when you miss something, that doesn't mean that it's all not worthwhile. Pearl Harbor, September 11th, there's more than a few misses that we've had. But that doesn't mean we can't stop watching. And it's the same for you at home, If your if your house gets broken into and you never find out who it was, that's not a reason to give up locking your doors, There's cameras you can get. You can set up your whole neighborhood.
Episode, right? Somebody
go back to that episode if
broke in, and then they broke in again, and then they broke in again, and had they stepped up with the vigilance? I don't know. Just saying.
Right, so that's the 10 of them, and again, that was one of the CIA documents, and it doesn't necessarily pertain to us preppers that are at home. But I think there's a lot of good advice in there that we could, that we can use in our own daily lives. So if you want to look that up, that's James M. Olson that wrote that paper, and it's worth a read.
It does. It makes you think. You have perspective. But I guess the reason we wanted to do this is just get you guys thinking about people are listening, but also be aware of what you say. Be aware that, the world is out there. The world can listen to anything you say. And, be on top of your game. Protect the people that you care about. And that's, I guess that's why we're all prepping, right? Is to protect the people we care about. So, preppingbadass.com. You can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. Check it out in the show notes. Check us out on Patreon. Maybe leave a review on the iTunes. Got some new reviews lately. I'm excited about that. And Kevin said that for those of you who are paying attention, 7, 6, 39, 22, 18, 4, 7, 7, 8, 12. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today. Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.